class. Our goal for rentals are by the end of this session we should be able to set up our rental inventory into a rental transaction. We'll look at the couple different ways we can do that. And I'm going to focus a little bit more on the service side, how we can maybe route or schedule some of the rental deliveries, pickups, exchanges, whatever the case may be. And then if we have time, we'll look at how we can track a rental repair. So the first thing I want to show you and go over is how to set up rental inventory inside of the service program. To do this, we're going to go to our rental inventory drop-down, or excuse me, our rental info drop-down, and then there's an option that says rental inventory list. From here, this is where we're going to want to set up all our items from QuickBooks that we need to rent out. So whether you're doing portable toilets, whether you're doing small or heavy equipment, medical equipment, if you have any type of serialized inventory that you need a daily, weekly, and monthly charge for, this is where you'll set it up. Now, if you do not plan on tracking serial numbers, you have no need then to set up anything on this page. You can do a rental without serial numbers. This is only if you have serialized inventory. So to do that, I can hit the item drop down, and you can see I have my full QuickBooks item list. And I can pick a item here, and I can give it a serial number. Real simple. Now in QuickBooks, this is a service item set up in QuickBooks, and I have the sales price of this item set at $75. When I put this item into our rental inventory list, you can see it automatically breaks out my daily, weekly, and monthly charge. I can always adjust it further from here if I want $100 for the month, and it'll prompt me if I make a change, do I want to update the daily and weekly amounts based on that new $100 a month rate. I can hit yes, and it'll calculate it out for me. Or I can just now go in and say maybe it's $35 a week. I don't want it to update, so you can set individual specific rates that aren't connected to each other. Now there's a lot of other information we can track. You can see here we've got some custom fields if we scroll to the right. Now we can set these up just by double-clicking the serial number once you've added it. And you can see here are the custom fields. You can just click in the white space and set a label. We can track a market cost, a replacement cost, location, condition, size, vendor, color, purchase price, general notes. Also, the item detail, be able to see any transactions that this has been rented on, any repairs, total cumulative billing history. And we have a file link where we can attach a picture of this roll, or maybe a service contract or an original purchase receipt. Now we also have a button up here that says bulk add serial numbers. So this is where I could pick my item, let's say pump. I'm going to put in my daily, weekly, and monthly rates here. So we want 10 a day, 5, and 100. Let's say I want to add 50, and my starting number is going to be 101. So now it has automatically gone and continued off where I left off with 100 and filled out the rest of my inventory for me. Nice sequential order. Now if you plan on doing anything with barcodes or QR codes, for barcodes you can just hit the button that says View Barcode in kind of the top right, and it's going to show a hidden field that would represent the barcode number when scanned. And this is, our software is automatically giving you this number based on what you put in the serial number, but if you had your own barcode number already on the toilets, you can just replace that in between the two asterisks here.
Now, Michael, with the new Q stamps, they will have their own numbers.
Exactly. So, for instance, you can see the little QR codes button looks like a little camera up here.
Right.
When you click that, once you have ordered QR codes from us, it's going to pull up a web browser where you would be able to see, okay, you've got a code 100, and then you would assign it to a piece of, let's go to a blank one here. So it would say, okay, 114 is going to be a rental, and then it asks me, okay, to select a rental. So then I would be able to pick from which of my serial numbers does 114 get connected to.
Okay.
So that you don't have to worry about setting up serial numbers if you plan to use QR codes. You'll be able to make that association later.
Okay.
So now that I've got some equipment in here, you do see a spot for a rented to where you could pick a customer name. We don't want to fill this in on this page, even though we can. This is merely to track when we actually do rent out one of these pumps, for instance, who it's rented to once we enter what we call a rental transaction. So let's jump there right now and just kind of walk through a very basic rental transaction. So to enter a rental, I'm going to go to Rental Info, enter a new rental. This will bring me to my screen where I can create a rental transaction. So the first thing I'm going to do is pick a customer. I have a location field here. If I need to track a specific location for setting of units, drop off at northwest corner, or by next to construction trailer. You can even use an address there. And now I can go in and pick an item. So I'm going to pick pump. Notice anything in this location that's set here, when I add an item, automatically gets copied to the location for the item I'm adding. So I only really have to type it once, and it'll make sure it's tracking that location for every unit we're adding.
Now, Michael, question. Can you also put that up in the ship to address?
Of course. Of course.
Okay. Will it show up? Will it show up right where you were just at?
No, it will not. If you put it in the ship to address, it won't show up here.
Okay.
Now, I'm able to select a serial number at this point. It just depends on in your procedure of when you know what serial number the guy delivered. You may not know till after the fact, so you could leave the serial number blank until he lets you know. I'm just going to go ahead and assign one now. And because my billing increment here is set to monthly, it is using the monthly rate of this piece of equipment. I can see my rates just by double-clicking the price that is blue and underlined, and it will bring up a little pop-up that will show me my charges. So now if I switch this billing increment to weekly, let's say, you'll see my price changes for me. I can even go to daily. Now, if we have it set to monthly and marked off as prorate, depending on when you run your billing and where you are in your billing cycle, when this customer calls in and you enter the rental transaction, prorate is going to allow the service program rather to adjust or calculate the final charge for that customer's invoice. If we do not tell it to prorate, it's just going to be the $100 no matter how long they have it rented in this scenario. Now, let's say we also charge a delivery fee. So I could pick from my item list in QuickBooks, and I have a delivery item set up. And here you can see it's set at $15. I don't want to prorate my delivery, and I want to tell it to run once. By telling the software that we only want it to run once, the first time this is billed, it would be included, but then any future billing, anything marked run once would not appear. Now, once anything marked as run once does show up on the invoice, like on their first bill, you'll notice afterwards that the date run is going to be filled in. So leave that blank. The software is automatically going to fill that in for you once it has been invoiced for the first time. And I don't want any type of prorating or anything going on with this $15. It's just a standard charge. So we have a billing increment called flat rate, which would just mean no matter what, it's always going to just be $15. I can put in any transaction notes, delivery notes, pickup notes. And this is the very basics of a rental transaction. This is kind of the bare bones, what you would need. And now to actually create it, I can just hit close here, and that'll save it. If I need to see at any time what is currently out rented in the field, it's just one click away. I can just hit items rented, and it'll show me everything I have rented, who it's rented to, their delivery date, their last bill date, their monthly charge. So if I want to see out of, you're also going to see delivery fees and stuff like that in this list, but I can just filter this item, show me all the pumps, and it would give me a quantity at the bottom of how many are rented currently, and then it gives me an estimated monthly total. Now, from this items rented screen, I can double-click on the invoice number. Any one of them will open up my transaction again. Now, we have a couple buttons at the top of our rental transaction that can help us perform some tasks like creating or printing delivery tickets, putting customers on a route. The first one to highlight, though, is See Rental Item List. So when you're inside a rental transaction and you want to instantly kind of look at what inventory you have available, you can just hit See Rental Item List. And it's going to bring you to your inventory list, and we can see now that 1002 is rented out to this customer on invoice number 7. If I hit Use Barcode, so if you are using barcodes, not keywords, but barcodes, I can hit Enter a Rental. If I had a barcode reader hooked up to my computer, I could scan my serial number like on the back of a radio or the piece of equipment, and that would automatically add it to this rental transaction. Now I have a drop-down. If you're new to the service program, we have a feature called Tasks. And tasks are a great way to manage reminders and kind of to-dos within the office. A task can also work or serve as a invoice that you can send into QuickBooks. So tasks, in essence, are billable and non-billable, depending on what you're using them for. Now I can simply go hit this drop-down and go to Create Delivery Task and hit Create Task. And this is going to create a reminder. So it fills in my customer information. It's a rental delivery. It puts notes on from the rental transaction. I could assign this, let's say, to a driver, and we're delivering it today, the due date 8/7, and I can just hit Close. So it pre-fills most of it for you. The only thing you'd have to really do is pick who you're assigning the task to. Then hit Close, and it's going to take me back to rental transaction. If I go look at my task list, though, you're going to see I now have a task that I've assigned to Bill. Due today. That's why it's outlined in yellow. So tasks follow a kind of a simple stoplight color coding system. Red is something that's past due, yellow is due today, and green is anything in the future. I'm not going to go too much more detail into tasks. We do cover those quite extensively in our beginner class. All the ins and outs, how to invoice them. I'm assuming everyone here could at least get to this point of creating the task. If you don't know much about tasks, please go watch one of our beginner videos, or feel free to join one of our beginner classes. We do them twice a week for the beginners class, Monday mornings and Wednesday afternoons. So we've gotten our delivery task. I could do the same thing if I need a pickup task, or I am renting roll-offs or bins or containers. I could do an exchange task. Let's say I don't want to use tasks. I don't want to have to worry about something else that I'm going to have to close out or complete or mark as done, and I just want a simple paper ticket to give to the driver. Well, over here on the right, we can do select, and we can do a delivery ticket, a pickup ticket, a quote, an agreement, a pack out list. So we could do a delivery ticket and hit print. So it shows me the daily, weekly, monthly amount, quantity, the item, description, serial number, the location. Just a simple delivery ticket.
Now, is there any way that that can be modified so the drivers won't see what the prices are?
Yeah, yes, sir. If I'm not mistaken, you can go to rental info, rental settings. Under rentals, if I turn show daily, weekly, monthly, if I set that to no, that'll turn off that daily, weekly, monthly on that delivery ticket. Like that.
Okay.
Now oh, go ahead, sir.
Now, like on our stuff, we on our line items, we show a rental fee plus a service fee plus fuel surcharge. I guess my question is all those line items want to show up on a delivery ticket?
Correct.
Okay.
Now, what we can do is we have the option for a Word template, which when you hit print would give you a list of, basically you can create your own type of contracts, agreements, delivery tickets, all based out of a Microsoft Word document, and our software will print right into Microsoft Word, kind of doing like a mail merge. So like I've got a delivery ticket in Word, I can hit print, and it would open up a, this is something you guys can design in Word, lay it out, and it would carry the data over. But you would have a lot more control on this part. You didn't want the delivery service fee, you wouldn't have to include that on the Word template. You could just have the equipment transfer over, for instance.
Okay.
If you're interested more about our Word templates, web templates, stuff we can offer, if you go to our View Online Help, we have a section for it under the service program that gives you some basic information and some sample templates you can download to see how they work. And we give you all the bookmark, everything you need really to make your own template. There's a short little video as well. If you are having trouble figuring it out and getting it going, I believe we charge, starting at $99, depending on the complexity of it, we can develop that for you. And you just have to reach out to your sales rep.
I've lost visual with you.
What's it showing on your screen?
Connected to go to training.
Oh, it looks like you're just seeing the web browser. Did it minimize my screen? Do you see like?
No, I don't. Only thing I've got is go to training. The page that came up at the beginning. I've lost you here for some reason. Okay, I got you back.
Okay.
Computer went to sleep for a second.
Oh, no worries. So say if you go to that View Online Help, we have all our documentation there to create the Word templates. If you have trouble with it and you'd like us to just make the template for you, basically, we can offer that as a service starting at $99, and depending on how hard it is, the price may be a little higher. But
okay.
So now we've created a rental transaction. We've entered some inventory. We need to put this on a route for service. So first, before we get into how we can do that, the different ways, let's go to our route schedule. And I'm going to start kind of fresh here. You'll need to make sure we set up frequencies and some route technicians before you can add stops to the schedule. So if you double-click in the box called frequency, you can see here I've created a biweekly, a monthly, and every 3 weeks, maybe a weekly. Now, what I can also do is create a frequency called delivery, which would not reoccur, so length of days 0. I could do a pickup. Same scenario, does not reoccur. And I can tell the software to delete it after posting the route, simply meaning once the delivery or pickup has been done, it's going to be removed from the schedule. To set up our route technicians, you can double-click in the route box. You can see here I've set up 3 routes, R1 for route 1, or R2 is Bob. You could do something like that. So now we've got frequencies, we've got routes. We're able now to put stops on here for service. So to do that, let's go to our items currently rented. Let's open up our transaction. So let's say we didn't have to do that setup, and we're entering this rental transaction, and now we need to put them on the route for the delivery. Well, instead of doing a delivery task or delivery ticket, over here on the right we have 3 boxes: select route, select frequency, select date. So I could come up here and say we're going to put it on route 1 for delivery, and it's being delivered today. Put on route. Then I could say that they also need to go on to route 1 for a weekly service, and that weekly service, since it's being delivered today, their probably first service is going to be maybe Thursday the 14th. Put on route. So now if I go look at my route schedule, I've got 2 stops on my route schedule. I've got a delivery that is scheduled as a one-time service for today, and it lets me know some of the notes of that rental transaction: invoice number 7, the contact, if they had a telephone number and a location. And then we've also now set up the customer for a weekly service. The first one after this week is done is going to remove itself, and we'd only be left with the weekly service going on from week to week. Let's say this customer, though, was not weekly. Let's say they were twice a week, that they were maybe Monday, Thursday. Well, we've got them on the schedule for Thursday. We also need to put them on for Monday. So I'm just going to go over here and say now we need to put them on for Monday the 11th, too. When I go back to my route schedule, now I've got them on the schedule 3 times, but the ones you'll see reoccurring are the 2 here. You'll have an every Monday stop now set up and an every Thursday stop set up for this customer. So let's say this customer calls in, towards the end of August and needs to do a pickup. Well, I'm going to come right up here and say we're going to need to put them on the schedule for a pickup, and they need to be picked up on the 22nd. Put on route. And I can go ahead here and say on the 22nd, we're going to return all. It asks me, do I want to invoice these items? When I click yes, it's going to create a final billing for this customer, and we'll take a look at what it's going to be here in a minute. I have the option to invoice, so depending on how you bill, if you bill in advance or you bill in the rear, you would determine whether or not you hit yes or no here. If you're billing in advance, you're probably going to hit no because you've already invoiced the customer for August. If you bill in the rear, you're probably going to hit yes because you haven't billed for August yet because it's not the end of the month. So this would allow me to create a final invoice before I do my regular monthly billing to collect for this customer. Also, by returning it, whenever you do return it, that's what puts that serial number 102 back into my inventory so I could rent it again. So now when I hit close here, if I look at my items rented, it's no longer rented. I put in the date returned. It's back in the inventory, so that transaction is officially closed. If I go to my route schedule, it's now set up for a pickup on 8/22. So I've got the pickup scheduled. And if I go to rental info, billing, view pending transactions, you're going to see the top one here is ready to go to QuickBooks. It's only charging them $57.14 because they had it from 8/7 to 8/22, and it's prorating it based off the monthly rate. I then could set my invoice date that I want to use in QuickBooks and hit Post to QuickBooks. That'll create this invoice in QuickBooks for me. Now, if I need to print a schedule, I could go to Route Info, Print Route Sheets, and let's say I'm going to print the schedule from the 7th. I'll just print it till the end of next week. There's a version with rentals, and it's going to show me any associated rentals to this customer. Now, I'm not seeing them here because I think we marked it as being returned. Let me go make that active again. So if we need to pull up a history of everything that's been rented, like our closed stuff that we can't see anymore by going to items rented, we can go to rental inventory transactions, and that will show me historically everything I've entered in the system. There we go. So now we would print that route sheet with the rental information. Now we have a couple other versions of these. And in particular, if you're doing portable toilets and not just equipment rental, if you go up here to Miscellaneous Info, System, and Control Table Maintenance, their industry, most of you may be set in rental, but if you're specifically doing portable toilets, you could go to Portalet, and that's going to give you, I believe, some more options here if I go to Print Route Sheets. So again, I'll set my date to the end of next week, and yep, I've got with rentals, that's the one we looked at. I have one with rental item totals, so if I look at that one, this one actually includes the quantity over here on the far right of each item. The other report didn't have that. It had a price and a serial number. I also, this weird named one, version 2 condensed version 2, that one is specifically done for portable toilet companies because it would list this customer has a quantity of 2 units rented. Did you have some space here for, like, did he refill the hand sanitizer? So we would see now we can also go to Route Info, and you can go Route Schedule with rental quantity. So this would show me that same route schedule, but it would show me my rental quantities over here. So I could see a total number of units on the route for service. Now under rental info, we have a lot of other information we can look at. One helpful thing we can set up are item groups. And I believe you mentioned this, Dean, how you have, you have the toilet, you've got a delivery, you've got a service, and you possibly have a fuel surcharge or mileage charge, like almost on a majority of the rentals.
Correct.
So we can actually create a rental item group. So I could create a, I'll just call it STD for standard, and we'll have our pump, and we'll pick our group name again. We've got a delivery, and let's say we also get let's see if I have like a fuel surcharge or mileage or that'll work. So here I can basically create a group, and now you can create as many different groups as you want. So you may have, a standard rental, which has your standard portable toilet. You may have like a handicap group, which includes a handicap unit plus your delivery, your fuel surcharge. You can preset the quantities and the prices and the order in which they need to be on the rental. So once I have a group set up, if I go to enter a new rental, again, pick a customer. So instead of having on every time I go and do a rental of picking those 3 or 4 items every single time, I can just go right here, add a group item. I could pick my category, and I could, if we needed 2 portable toilets, I could put in 2. If I need 1, I could just put 1 and hit the little plus sign right next to it. Do I want to add this item group now? We can hit yes. And it automatically adds all those items to the rental transaction for me. So just some shortcuts. Well, now let's say this customer has had this thing rented for a while and they need another one. Well, I can obviously just come right down here to the bottom line and add another pump and add more items, but I want to keep it organized. So let's say I want to have all my pumps up here at the top. On the far right, you have a column that's called Order, and there should be a blue and underlined number in there. If I double-click the number 2, it's going to insert a blank line above that. So now I've got a blank line that I go and put a pump in. So I can keep it organized and everything right up top, just like that. If I want to rearrange an item, let's say I want delivery to be at the top, I can just set delivery with that order number to be number 1, and it'll renumber everything for me. Now delivery is at the top. Now if you do any re-renting where it's maybe not your inventory, you're renting it from someone and then re-renting it to a customer, this is where we can track a commission amount, a PO number, a PO cost, and then a vendor, which would be the person you're renting it from. So you can track that per piece of equipment as well. Now to do a monthly billing, anytime it's time to do billing, we're going to go to Rental Info, Billing, and Run Billing. So let's say it's the end of August and we're billing everything through the whole month. So I could select my ending date as the 31st. I can tell the software how many days are in your billing cycle. So if you're doing calendar month billing, this is always going to be different. It's going to change based on the month you're billing for. So for this example, in August, I've got 31 days. That's my calendar month this month. If you're billing in a 28-day cycle, you just put 28 days in there, and you never have to change it. Every 28 days, you would come to this screen, run your billing, and we can go ahead now and hit Generate Pre-Billing. Then we could hit View Pre-Billing. We would see everything gets a invoice that we have entered in the system. So we got this one that's being rented from 8/7 to 8/31. Same with this one, 8/7 to 8/22. Everything gets prorated differently, based on how long it was rented. And now we would set our invoice date and hit Post to QuickBooks. And that would create all of these invoices in QuickBooks.
Now from there, will QuickBooks automatically print them up?
QuickBooks doesn't automatically print them. If you notice here in the middle of the screen, or it's actually kind of on the right here, you have a print or email. So this actually controls when the invoice goes to QuickBooks, where does it show up? If they're flagged to be printed, they'll show up in the batch print queue in QuickBooks. Like if you go to File, Print Forms, and pick Invoices, they would all show up there ready to be batch printed.
Okay.
Same with email. They'll all show up ready to be emailed, and you can just email them out from that screen, and they'll send all the customers an email.
Okay.
Now, so you don't have to, it's a pain to have to do this every time you do billing and check off which customer's which. So in the service program, if you go into our customer list, and you'd have to do this in the service program, and we double-click a customer name, that takes us to customer detail. We can go to additional info, and we have a default delivery method. So that is going to control automatically if you're doing a rental for this customer and I select print, it's always going to check off print for you. Vice versa, if I hit email, it'll always be checked off to be emailed when it goes to QuickBooks.
So each and every customer, because I've got quite a few that do that. Excuse me, I have quite a few that does accept email invoices. So I need to go through on those individual customers and make sure that is either email or print. Is that correct?
Yep, and I think by default, by default, if nothing is selected there, our software tells it to just show up to be printed. So
okay.
Really, you only have to go into the ones that need that email invoice and change them to email.
Okay.
Now, some of the reports we have for rentals is under rental info. I can go to rental info and then reports. So here we got a couple different reports. We have a deliveries and returns by date range. We have a deliveries and returns by date range that exports it, meaning it'll drop it into Excel for us. So if I pick that report, and I'll go ahead and do it through the end of the month, and I can hit view, it would show me how many deliveries we had in that date range, 2 for each equipment. And if I had any pickups, it would show me a separate box down here for all my items that I picked up. You can filter any of these reports by picking a parent company, a customer, or a department. And those will all filter whatever report is selected up here. Now, most of our reporting, though, can be done right from the various screens. So like items rented, if I want to see everything rented between 2 dates, I could just right-click in the delivery date, and I can go between. I can put in 2 date range, and then that would filter this for me. And then once it's filtered, I could sort it by right-clicking. So if I want to see all for a certain customer, I could just right-click on their name, filter by selection. Then once I've got it down to what I want to see, I could just right-click and analyze with Excel. And it'll take whatever the screen looks like, however you filtered it, and bring it up right in Excel for you. And you can always hit print at the top of the page. There we go. That'll give you a very simple report. You can't change this one, but if you want to filter and sort, you then have the option to export it to Excel. Now under billing, every time we do a billing batch and send it to QuickBooks, if you go to historical transactions, this will show you a history of everything that's physically been sent into QuickBooks. So basically every time you run the billing, you get that batch screen. Once you send it to QuickBooks, everything disappears on there, but it will show up in this history if there's a question you have to refer back to later. That's all I really had on the agenda today to discuss for this class. It gives us just under 15 minutes. If anyone has any specific questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Now, Michael, if that customer Balak calls and wants to say the fountain picked up, then you go into the customer info and to that or items currently rented.
Yeah, I would go to items currently rented. I would, you could find it by their customer name, and I would open up their rental.
Okay.
And then I could do the one of two ways that, or a couple different ways. I could do the pickup ticket or the pickup task. So you could do actually pickup task. You could just print a pickup ticket. I could put it on the route for pickup. So those are how I can get it scheduled for the pickup. Most importantly, though, once it is picked up, you put in the return date here, whenever it was picked up.
Okay.
All right. Well, if no one else has any questions, I do appreciate everyone taking their time to join us for today's class. And then I know Paul and Dean, you guys are, I think, both kind of new to the software, both on rentals. I know, Dean, you joined us this morning. In the morning on Thursdays, we do a billing class, so that's usually where we dive into a little bit more detail on specifically the billing scenarios for rentals. I've recorded the session this morning. I'll put that up on our online help site if anyone's interested in watching that one, as well as what I've just done this afternoon.
Okay.
Hope everyone has a great afternoon.
All right.
Thank you very much.
No problem. Take care.
Bye.